Hey folks, Real Honesty with Joe Ritlin. I'm Joe Ritlin. This is a 5-year reflection on the 2012 edition of TNA Impact Wrestling Bound For Glory. Which, this one was still good. This is kind of where cracks were starting to show a little bit. Hogan obviously wasn't featured in the ring anymore like it was the previous year in 2011, which was really shit. That match with Sting was one of the worst abortions of a match I've ever seen. it was absolutely terrible. Not that I expected much from when Sting was in the best shape of anybody in the match. That's not necessarily a good thing, because Sting was pushing near his mid-50s at that point, or at least with about 50. Hogan couldn't even work. But anyway, 2012 reached about the apex. This is actually the last really good Bound for Glory that they did. 2013 was decent, but didn't draw a big crowd. And this one only drew 2,900 people, but it was in a smaller venue, so it didn't look so bad. The 2013 edition, however, was in a bigger arena and only drew 3,500 people, and I think it was like a 10,000 seat arena. But anyway, enough of that. I mean, knocking Impact Wrestling is just what I remember. 2012 was a pretty good landmark year as far as great wrestling in the company. Shout out to @WrestleRant on Twitter, who I know loved the summer and maybe even the fall of 2012 for Impact Wrestling. And it was pretty damn good stuff. Like, I mean, the summer they were still smoking hot and they were doing good business on their TV tapings and their pay-per-views, or at least they seem to be. They seem to be drawing some good amount of fans. Like I said, once 2013 hit, and then especially once 2014, they're kind of in a lull now. They seem to be going back up. At least they're taking Bound for Glory back on the road. And once again, in case you haven't seen my 10-year reflection on Bound for Glory 2007, I may not watch this new edition of Bound for Glory that's coming up in early November, because I may not be willing to pay the amount of money for it, and I'm not going to stream it. I'm going to pay my money and support the company instead of illegally streaming it. And I'm not going to knock anybody if they want to stream it. That's your business. I'm just not going to do that. But on to the card, which had 8 matches, and some of them had their moments. There were really only actually a couple that weren't all that good. It started off with Rob Van Dam defeating Zema Ion, who's now DJZ, and thankfully has recovered from his horrific injury that he had. It was a TNA X Division Championship match, and RVD beat Zema Ion, which Rob Van Dam's run in Impact Wrestling just, I don't know. I mean, he's even admitted in interviews he didn't really seem like he was there. He was just there kind of just to collect money and stuff like that and have a few good matches. I mean, it wasn't that he necessarily hated being there. It just didn't seem like he wanted to be there. But he wanted a lighter schedule at the same time, and that's one thing Impact Wrestling always has, a lighter schedule. So he beat Zema Ion in like 8 minutes. I mean, it wasn't like a complete one-sided match, but I don't think there was any doubt RVD was going to win. And this was actually one of the last pay-per-view appearances he had. He had a couple others, but he was gone by April of 2013, I believe. Which was fine. He made a couple sporadic appearances in WWE, and he hadn't made any appearances for WWE since 2014. I really don't care if RVD ever comes back, because at this point, I don't really think there's a need for him to. I think he's probably made his money. He's like in his mid-40s now, if not getting into his later 40s. He doesn't really need to wrestle anymore. But RVD winning the X Division Championship, I mean, it was fine. It's just, it seemed like this was almost one where they were taking, in some of these matches, they were taking the more established talents and putting them over the younger talents. And it kind of smacked the Millionaires Club New Blood storyline in WCW, where they kind of didn't know what they were doing. Still, there were some good matches here. But RVD being Zema Ion, you should have given Zema a bigger run. You just should have. I mean, RVD didn't need the X Division title. Even if I wasn't necessarily against it, he didn't need it. Samoa Joe defeated Magnus via submission. They were actually tag team champions earlier in the year. I think they had lost him in February. They had him for a few months. Lost him, I think, in I want to say the summer. I want to say it was about, May or June. And then Joe had the TNA television championship, and they feuded a bit, or whatever, feuded in the Bound For Glory series. Magnus was upset because Joe had eliminated him from the tournament, or the rankings and stuff like that, so he wasn't in the top 4. So they feuded over the TNA television championship. Joe had beaten Magnus via submission. Magnus was about a year after this handpicked to be Dixie Carter's new new guy. Even though he's kind of being groomed as that and working his way up, he would eventually become the world champion, which would have worked a lot better if they weren't in a lull period at that point. Still decent television championship match for what it was. Best match on the damn card, though, or at least the second best match on the card, and something that should have been ranked a lot higher in the card than it was. It should have not been the third match. James Storm defeated Bobby Roode in a street fight. The former Beer Money members finally having it out in this big, bloody brawl with Bellator MMA hack King Mo, and I'm going to call him a hack because the guy is more flash than substance. At least from what I've seen. I've only seen a few of his fights, but I was not very impressed. But this is when Spike was trying to do cross-promotion with Impact Wrestling and Bellator to get the Bellator brand on the map. And to be fair, Bellator has some pretty good talents. Pretty damn good fighters. This was a really, really good match, though. Storm had to win, and he did. But this was an absolute war. It was an absolute war. I don't know if it was quite at the fever pitch that Chris Harris and Storm captured at Sacrifice 2007. But it was a pretty damn good match. And I will give them the ultimate credit for that. It was really fun. And Storm winning was exactly what needed to happen. Because Bobby Roode had screwed him over a lot, screwed him over for the championship almost a year before. Gotten away with not giving Storm the championship, finding a way to get out of the whole thing. Of course, Roode lost to Dawson Aries, shockingly. I actually did not expect that to happen. Even though Aries deserved to be champion, I didn't think Roode was going to lose. And then Storm manages to beat him here, so it was a way for Storm to get his revenge, even though I think this should have been for the championship. I really do. I really think this should have been for the championship. This actually should have been the main event. That's not knocking Aries and Jeff Hardy, which was the main event. I just think that they should have had this reversed, because Aries and Hardy could have put on a great match without the title. But still, Storm beating Roode was fine. And then probably the lone match that really wasn't that good, Joey Ryan, pre-dick flipping Joey Ryan, defeated Al Snow. And this is when Joey Ryan was not signed from the gut check thing and had a feud with Al Snow, who wrestled a very little but was mainly an agent for Impact at the time. And Al Snow was upset, so Joey Ryan thought he signed a TNA contract on Impact, but it was actually to face Al Snow in a match. But if Al Snow lost, then Joey Ryan would get a TNA contract. So he did, and then they really didn't do anything with him. They had Joey Ryan and Matt Morgan with an uneasy alliance. It didn't really last that long. Joey Ryan was gone with him, a year? It was weird, because you would think that they would have used Joey Ryan a little bit better, who at the time was not a bad worker. And I'm not saying he's a bad worker now. I don't care for the dick flip stuff at all. I think it's shit. It's gotten him over, so whatever. But this is one of those forgotten things where it's like, TNA Impact, they had a chance to use a younger talent better, and they used him better here by having to beat Al Snow, who was not the performer that he was at all. And then they proceeded to do nothing with Joey Ryan. They had Joey Ryan and Matt Morgan, I think, challenged for the tag team championships at one point, and that didn't really work. It was what it was. It was okay. Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez defeated Bad Influence, Christopher Daniels, and Kazarian, and I think one of the last matches that they had as a team before they left. They might have been in there for a little bit in 2013, but anyway, defeated AJ. So it was Chavo and Hernandez defeating Bad Influence and AJ Styles and Kurt Angle. Sorry, I got a little text message here on my damn phone, so I got a little distracted there for a second. But it was a good three-way match. It was a good three-way tag match. Chavo and Hernandez winning was a little bit shocking though, because I was like, that was kind of sloppy and that was kind of weird. But Styles, of course, had the issues with Kaz and Daniels, and Styles and Angle had been great rivals and also, uneasy tag team alliance. And it was good stuff. It had a good flow to it. I mean, I didn't necessarily agree with Chavo and Hernandez winning. I understood why it happened, but it really didn't have a good pop to it. Chavo and Hernandez were a bit of a, I don't know. It was a bit of a ridiculous teaming, but it made sense because Chavo was more of a veteran. Hernandez they were trying to bring along, even though with Hernandez they had already dropped the ball with him. But for 15 and a half minutes, it was well done. It was well done for a tag team championship match. It's just, even if I didn't agree with Chavo and Hernandez winning. And then Tara defeated Miss Tessmacher, Brooke Adams, for the Knockouts Women's Championship. And fun fact, this is actually one of the last, I believe, pushes that Tara got as a wrestler before they made her a valet for the Bromans. And then I think she left later in 2013, if I remember right. Tess and Tara had teamed up. They had been rivals. This wasn't bad. It wasn't great. I mean, don't get me wrong. Brooke Adams worked hard and was a good performer, but I don't know if her time in the ring was ever really that great. Tara, Victoria, and WWE had good runs in both companies, was used pretty well in Impact Wrestling, at least for a couple years. I would have rather had Tessmacher win, and nothing against Tara. I just think you could have gotten a bit more of a run with Tessmacher as champion. I think she'd had it for a couple months by that point, but it's just because that was, again, going back to Millionaires Club, New Blood storyline. It just, whatever. Tara winning certainly didn't bother me, but it's like it almost cut the legs off of Tessmacher, which was just odd. And it was a short match. It was only like just over 6 minutes. You could have had this go to 10 minutes, and I don't think it would have hurt anything else on the card. But still, certainly not bad. I would have rather had Tessmacher retain. Then Aces and Eights members Doc, Luke Gallows, and Nux, Mike Knox, defeated Sting and Bully Ray in a no disqualification tag team match. And because of this, Aces and Eights gained full access to the Impact Zone. Of course, Bully Ray at Lockdown 2013 would be revealed as the leader of Aces and Eights, to the shock of no goddamn person that had half a working brain. That's not to say the Bully didn't do a great job being a heel. But there was no way that it wasn't obvious that Bully was the leader. I mean, come on. It was ridiculous. I don't know. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. At least it was no DQ, so it made sense. But yeah, I don't know. It certainly wasn't terrible. Aces and Eights got it just, I don't know. It kind of, the Aces and Eights thing really petered out awfully quickly. It's like they didn't really know what they were doing. And was what it was. It happened. Let's move on. Not a bad tag match, just not great. And then Jeff Hardy defeated Austin Aries. Great TNA Heavyweight Championship match. Well done. Good pace. Jeff had the redemption here. And this was about a year and a half since the Victory Road 2011 fiasco where he was drunk, drugged up, whatever. I don't know what his deal was. I don't know what he was high on. I don't know what his deal was. He got clean, so don't get me wrong. I'm happy for him. But I don't know what substances he was on, but he was on something. And this was his redemption. Even though I think Aries could have won here and it wouldn't have been bad. And you could have had Jeff Hardy win, at the next pay-per-view. Austin Aries would have been able to prove to Jeff Hardy that he belonged there. No, they cut Aries' title run short and Jeff Hardy won. It was like, again, kind of cutting the legs, kind of like how they cut out the legs from Miss Tessmacher by having Tara win. Even though Tara was still in phenomenal shape, she was also 41. Tessmacher was a lot younger. And if you want to go with youth, you kind of need to build up your youth. I think Aries and Jeff were about the same age. But in the eyes of people, Aries should have got more of a chance, and he didn't. That's not to say that this pay-per-view is bad. This pay-per-view is actually quite good, even with the plot holes I talked about, and the minor quibbles with a couple of the matches. It still had a really good flow to it, and for 8 matches, it certainly is worth it. So it was a good card, and it was nice to do this 5-year reflection. So guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for putting up with the fact, by the way, that I clear my throat. I've been sick, dealing with allergies, but thank you guys so much. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I said? What were some of your favorite matches from this pay-per-view? Like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link is in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Rittland. I'm John Rittland, and I will see you all soon.